Hey there, it's Paul with Admiral Adamski, and I'm here to talk about one of my favorite cocktails of all time. It's called the Negroni. You've probably heard of it. So what is a Negroni? It's equal parts of three different spirits. We got sweet vermouth. This one is Carpano Antica formula. It's one of the original sweet vermouths, if not the original sweet vermouth. We got Campari. This is drinking bitters from Milan. And before we get into the gin, that enters the equation a little bit later, we'll start to talk about these two things. So the cool thing about a Negroni is there's a lot of history in the drink. The actual Campari that is kind of the baseline component of a Negroni wasn't made until the late 1800s. And your sweet vermouth is an Italian product that dates back, as you can see here, back to 1786. The King of Sardinia had this cocktail contest, or rather spirit contest, and he wanted to see who could make the best tasting spirit. This here spirit was the winner. And vermouth, interestingly, gets its name from the German Vermut, which means wormwood, because vermouth contains a tiny amount of wormwood. Now, not all wormwood has psychedelic properties, but that's another story for another day. Our Campari, on the other hand, is a rhubarb-based bitters. So it's a drinking bitters. It's a little bit different than a cocktail bitters where you add a tiny dash to a drink. This one's a little bit lower in proof, and honestly, it's a brighter color and a bit more of a digestive. So you can enjoy this on its own, which they did for a very long time, or you can mix it because it's rather bitter with something sweet like sweet vermouth and soda water. And that's what you have Milano Torin, because this is from Milan and this is from Torino. So they had that drink for a great long time in the 1800s, and it was just these two things in equal parts with soda water and an orange twist. Then Prohibition hit in America in January of 1920. So what would happen was a bunch of Americans found their way over to Italy, and they fell in love with the Milano Torin. So much so that bartenders there started calling the Milano Torin the Americano. Then one day, a Florentine aristocrat by the name of Count Camillo de Negroni came into the bar and he said, "Hey, why don't you make me an Americano, but let's gussy it up a little bit, and why don't you throw some gin in there?" And today's Negroni is equal parts. They omit the soda water here in the United States. They still throw a little bit of soda water in if you order it in Italy. But it's these things, 1 ounce each of gin, sweet vermouth, and Campari. You can stir it up and serve it up with no ice, or you can just build it in the glass and serve it on the rocks. You can also stir it and serve it on the rocks. But to be quite honest, I don't think you really need to stir it if you're serving it on the rocks, because you're not going to notice the difference very quickly. At any rate, big amount of debate between whether you have it on the rocks or whether you have it up. If you have it up, these two spirits tend to evolve on the palate. The Campari, the bitterness, and then the sweetness from the vermouth tend to blossom and evolve. Whereas if you have it on the rocks, it remains the same consistent, I would call it a bitter sour flavor throughout. At any rate, we're using some great products today, and we have a wonderful person here to mix it up for me, my fabulous fiancée, Sherry. So Sherry's going to come over here and mix this drink.
Hello.
Boom. We got a little bit of ice in the cup. There's the jigger for you. And it's all you. Now, it doesn't matter what order you choose to add the spirits in, because you're making it in the glass. And what's really great about a Negroni is it's a great cocktail to introduce yourself into cocktailing without like a huge amount of skill. Like, you don't really have to have a crazy shaking technique or a stirring technique to make this drink. And it's going to taste great pretty much every time. If you don't want to use Carpano Antica, you can use Punti Mez, another fabulous sweet vermouth. A little bit less vanilla, but really, really delicious. Now, if you want to make a twist really easily and you don't have a channel knife, just cut yourself a little oval and drop it right in. You're good to go.
Wow.
So yeah, that's how you make a Negroni. And if you're feeling really fancy, you can flame an orange peel over it too. Our oranges were a little bit unforgiving today, so we didn't go the full Monty. But thank you so much, Sherry. I appreciate it. And thank you guys.